Evening settles slowly over the edge of the garden. The sun dips below the horizon, and the remaining light pools in soft amber tones across the stems and leaves. A praying mantis stands motionless among them, its elongated body perfectly aligned with the stalk it clings to. To the casual observer, it might appear as nothing more than another shard of green vegetation, a frail extension of the plant itself. But within that stillness lies tension, a living weapon calibrated by millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Its forelegs, folded in prayer, are not symbols of peace, but instruments of ambush. The praying mantis is among nature's most efficient mechanical designs. The raptorial forelegs, the hallmark of its order, Mantidea, are folded like a switchblade, waiting for release. The upper section, known as the femur, is lined with sharp, saw-like spines, each perfectly spaced to pierce or pin down struggling prey. The lower section, the tibia, ends in a terminal claw that locks against the femur to form a predatory vice. Between these armored limbs lies a spring system of biological elasticity, dense muscle fibers and resilient pads capable of storing energy like a coiled bowstring. When triggered, these legs can accelerate to full extension in less than 70,000ths of a second. To put that in perspective, the strike happens faster than the human eye can blink. In that moment of attack, a mantis is both predator and machine, a perfect embodiment of applied biomechanics. It doesn't leap forward, instead it pivots the thorax, releases the leg latch, and the strike unfolds with frightening precision. Scientists studying high-speed footage have calculated that the acceleration rate of the mantis foreleg exceeds that of a cheetah's sprint, scaled down to insect size. The secret lies not in brute strength but in controlled release. The tendons build tension slowly, then unload explosively. The result is a strike so fast that even an alert fly cannot react in time. Yet speed alone does not define the mantis. Its mind, if we can call its intricate sensory network that, processes vision in ways few other insects can. Unlike most arthropods that rely on simple motion detection, the mantis possesses a rare form of stereo vision. Its two forward-facing eyes allow for depth perception through triangulation, much like a human's. This enables it to judge the exact distance of its target before committing to the strike. In laboratory experiments, mantises have been shown to respond to three-dimensional illusions, proving that their brains can interpret visual depth cues far more complex than those of other insects. That forward gaze also contributes to the creature's eerie charisma. When the mantis turns its head, a behavior uncommon in most insects, it gives the impression of sentience. Its triangular face swivels from side to side, following movement, calculating distance, passing shape and light. Under the cold glow of a porch bulb, this mechanical patience becomes almost cinematic. The moths and flies drawn to the light seem to orbit in slow motion, unaware that one of their number will vanish in an instant. The mantis's camouflage is more than visual deception, it's choreography. In the slightest wind, it sways with the stems around it, synchronizing its rhythm to the vegetation's pulse. This wind sway mimic prevents predators from detecting the subtle outlines of its body and also hides its micro-movements as it adjusts for attack. Every oscillation through the air is calculated to maintain invisibility. The result is a form of dynamic stillness, a dance designed to erase the boundary between organism and environment. Then comes the moment. A housefly, buzzing erratically, lands on the wooden railing beneath the porch light. The mantis, poised on a nearby stem, shifts its angle by a fraction of a degree. The world narrows to a tunnel of light and shadow. Backlighting outlines the fly's silhouette with a thin rim of silver, exactly what the mantis needs for depth judgment. In this geometry of darkness and glow, the insect's stereo eyes process distance to the millimeter. Without warning, the forelegs release. The motion is almost invisible. The sound, if one listens closely, is a faint snap, like the closing of a tiny hinge. The fly disappears, seized between spines and claws. The mantis's mouthparts move methodically, tearing soft tissue with precision. The act is neither cruel nor wasteful. It is efficiency embodied. The mantis consumes nearly everything, leaving only the exoskeletal fragments. In its world, every kill is fuel for the next act of patience. When the feeding is done, another ritual begins, the cleaning. The mantis runs its forelegs through its mouthparts, scraping away dust, pollen, and traces of prey. It then wipes each leg along the antennae and thorax, ensuring no scent or residue betrays its presence to future victims. This cleaning is not vanity, but survival. A single contaminant could dull sensory precision or reduce the grip of its spines. Each element of the mantis's design reveals a compromise between predation and vulnerability. Its exoskeleton is light but fragile. Its long body provides reach but limits agility. Against birds or larger insects, it is defenseless unless hidden. Therefore, its most powerful weapon is not the leg or the jaw, but the art of waiting. Time itself becomes part of its arsenal. Hours may pass without movement. In that stillness, the mantis conserves energy and avoids detection. This patience defines its evolutionary success across continents, from the rice paddies of Asia to the hedgerows of Europe and the suburban gardens of North America. Underneath these local adaptations lies an ancient lineage. Fossils reveal that mantises have existed for over 120 million years, their early ancestors sharing traits with both cockroaches and termites. Over millennia, evolution honed them into the ultimate ambush predators of the micro-jungle. The raptorial foreleg, a structure once used for grasping, transformed into a killing tool through countless subtle refinements. Modern mantises still carry echoes of that ancient heritage in the ridges of their exoskeleton and the articulation of their joints. The sensory system of a mantis extends beyond vision. Tiny hair-like structures called mechanoreceptors detect changes in air pressure and vibration. These hairs can sense the wing beats of an approaching insect even before it enters the visual field. Combined with auditory organs located on the thorax, which can detect ultrasonic frequencies from hunting bats, the mantis forms a multi-sensory defense network. When threatened, it can pivot its thorax, flare its forelegs, and reveal hidden color patches, startled displays meant to confuse or intimidate. But tonight, under the porch light, there is no need for defense. The predator is in command. As the night deepens and the light attracts another wave of flying insects, the mantis resumes its stance, legs folded, head tilted, waiting. Its abdomen expands with each slow breath. Every motion in the surrounding air, every flicker of shadow, passes through its alien intelligence like a coded signal. To watch a mantis hunt is to glimpse evolution's patience distilled into a single form. It is the embodiment of tension, energy stored, precision controlled, life held between stillness and motion. In this balance lies a lesson about nature's design philosophy. Success is not merely about aggression or strength, but timing, accuracy, and restraint. The mantis survives not because it dominates, but because it understands its world at the most intimate level, through air currents, light gradients, and the pulse of its prey. And so the garden becomes a silent stage. The predator remains invisible, the cycle continues, and the light hums quietly above. Each strike, unseen by human eyes, echoes the same principle that has guided the mantis line since the age of dinosaurs. Wait, judge, and release. Nature's trigger springs are always loaded, ready to strike, yet perfectly still. At the edge of a sunlit leaf, suspended over the void between stems, a creature the size of a fingernail surveys its world through 8 glittering eyes. Every angle of light fractures across those tiny orbs, each pair reflecting a different realm of perception. This is a jumping spider, member of the family Salticidae, and one of the smallest, most complex hunters ever to evolve. To a human observer, it might appear almost endearing, its fuzzy body and wide eyes giving it an oddly mammalian presence. But behind that appearance lies an exquisite predator, one that operates by principles more akin to physics and engineering than instinct alone. The leaf trembles slightly under its weight. The spider remains motionless, yet inside its body, pressure builds. Unlike most creatures that rely solely on muscles for movement, the jumping spider uses hydraulics. Beneath its exoskeleton, a pressurized fluid called hemolymph surges through internal chambers. When the spider prepares to leap, it contracts powerful muscles in the cephalothorax, forcing hemolymph into the legs. This sudden increase in pressure extends the leg joints explosively, faster than muscle contraction could achieve alone. Each jump is a controlled burst of liquid power, converting internal pressure into motion with astonishing precision. To understand the jump, one must first understand the physics. The spider's leaps are not blind stabs at the air. They are measured trajectories. A typical jump can cover distances up to 50 times the spider's own body length. But what makes it remarkable is not the distance, it's the accuracy. Before every launch, the spider engages in a sequence of micro-adjustments that mimic the visual focusing of a camera. Its principal eyes, the two large forward-facing ones, offer high-resolution color vision. They can detect ultraviolet wavelengths and perceive fine detail several times sharper than that of a dragonfly, though over a much smaller field of view. These eyes are unlike any others in the arthropod world. Inside each one sits a movable retina, capable of subtle shifts known as micro-cicadas. These tiny movements sweep across the scene in short bursts, allowing the spider to build a layered three-dimensional model of its surroundings. By integrating depth from these scans with input from the secondary eyes, those smaller orbs arranged along the sides and top of its head, the spider constructs an internal panorama that merges close-up precision with wide-angle awareness. In essence, it sees both the forest and the leaf veins at once. From this composite map, the spider makes calculations worthy of an engineer. It estimates distance, evaluates the angle of approach, and predicts the movement of its target. Unlike a mantis, which reacts, the jumping spider anticipates. Studies using high-speed videography show that it adjusts its trajectory mid-leap, using subtle changes in leg extension and abdominal posture to steer itself toward where the prey will be, not where it is. This is predictive targeting, an evolved algorithm that operates in fractions of a second. But leaping into the air carries obvious risks, especially for an animal weighing less than a raindrop. To counter this, the spider anchors a dragline of silk before every jump. This safety line, extruded from spinnerets at the abdomen's tip, remains tethered to the launch surface. Should the spider misjudge its path, it can reel itself back like a climber pulling on a rope. In laboratory experiments, these draglines have been shown to bear more than 10 times the spider's weight, an extraordinary testament to the tensile strength of silk. To the spider, it is a lifeline. To engineers, it is an example of nature's mastery of lightweight materials. The setting sun filters through the canopy, transforming the spider's body into a mosaic of color. Some species, like the peacock spiders of Australia, flaunt iridescent abdominal plates that shimmer in reds, greens, and blues. This display, however, is not for intimidation. It is communication. When males court females, they combine visual and vibrational signals in performances that rival bird displays in complexity. The male raises his front legs and begins a rhythmic dance, waving, stepping, and pausing to send minute vibrations through the leaf or stem. These vibrations, measured in sub-millimeter amplitude, are picked up by the female through specialized sensors in her legs. The leaf itself becomes a medium of conversation, transmitting every pulse and pause. If the female is receptive, she signals back with her own subtle tremors. But the outcome is far from guaranteed. Courtship in jumping spiders is a perilous affair. The same precision that allows a male to land on prey is needed to judge a female's mood. A single misstep, one vibration too loud, one movement too sudden, can turn the courtship into predation. Evolution has pushed these males to balance bravado with restraint, a delicate negotiation of survival and desire. At the same time, the female's choice shapes the next generation. The most coordinated males, those capable of maintaining perfect rhythm and color contrast, are favored. This form of sexual selection drives the evolution of new patterns, new colors, and ever more intricate dances. Over time, entire species diverge through performance alone, each developing a unique choreography that defines its identity. It is evolution not through combat, but through art. The leaf beneath the spider shifts as a faint breeze passes. Somewhere below, an aphid colony feeds on the plant's sap, tended by ants that harvest the sugary secretions. The spider's attention, however, is fixed on a gnat hovering nearby. The gnat's wings beat more than 600 times per second, creating a subtle vibration in the air, a sound too faint for human ears, but perfectly detectable by the spider's sensory hairs. Those hairs, called trichobothria, line the legs like fine antennae, converting minute air currents into tactile data. The spider crouches lower, orienting its body with surgical precision. Now every sense converges. The principal eyes track the gnat's position. The secondary eyes monitor the surrounding motion. Internal hydraulics build pressure. The cephalothorax contracts, forcing hemolymph into the legs. The dragline extrudes, anchoring to the leaf's edge. In that instant, the spider's entire body becomes a loaded mechanism, a living crossbow primed by liquid force. Then it jumps. The movement is silent, a blur that arcs through the air with geometrical perfection. For a heartbeat, the spider seems suspended in slow motion, all 8 legs extended, body rotating slightly to align with its target. The impact is decisive. The gnat disappears beneath the spider's embrace, secured by the rapid closure of pedipalps and chelicerae. A quick bite injects venom that paralyzes instantly, liquefying the internal tissues. The spider consumes its prey efficiently, leaving behind only the transparent husk. Within moments, the hunter returns to its leaf, calm as if nothing had occurred. But the true marvel lies not in the act of killing, but in the sensory choreography that enables it. Each leap requires a seamless fusion of hydraulics, optics, and computation. The spider's brain, smaller than a grain of sand, performs ballistic calculations rivaling those of vertebrates. Neuroscientists studying Salticidae have found specialized neurons that respond to motion prediction, cells that anticipate where a moving object will be before it arrives. This neural foresight allows the spider to act not in reaction to the present, but in expectation of the future. As dusk deepens, the world cools. The spider retreats beneath the leaf, securing itself with a few strands of silk. Its body temperature drops, metabolism slows, and the hydraulic system relaxes. Yet even in rest, the spider remains alert. Tiny vibrations from nocturnal moths and beetles pulse through the plant's tissues, each wave analyzed unconsciously through sensory feedback. The hunter sleeps within its web of data, ready to awaken at the faintest disturbance. The jumping spider embodies the paradox of nature's design, fragility and ferocity bound in miniature. Its body is delicate, its lifespan measured in months, yet within that brief existence it performs feats of coordination that surpass many larger creatures. It is both predator and artist, mathematician and acrobat. Its survival strategy a blend of physics, sensory evolution, and behavioral nuance. To watch one hunt is to witness the frontier of biological precision. Each jump, each tremor, each vibration is a demonstration of control at the smallest scale. And in that mastery lies a truth that stretches beyond its tiny form. Even the smallest beings can command immense complexity when evolution tunes every part to a single purpose. The spider waits again at the leaf's edge, 8 eyes glinting in the last trace of light. Somewhere ahead, a shadow flickers, a new calculation begins. The hydraulics tense, the silk line tightens, and the air stills. The stage resets, ready for another perfect leap. Night drapes the forest in velvet shadow. Beneath the canopy, the humid air carries a sweet, fermented scent, the unmistakable aroma of oak sap bleeding from a fissure in the bark. This is the forest's tavern, a gathering point for nocturnal life. Moths drift toward it like drunks to a lantern. Beetles, too, arrive in their heavy armor, their bodies glinting in the faint silver of moonlight. Among them, one figure dominates the scene, a rhinoceros beetle. It climbs the bark with deliberate weight, claws scraping softly, horn catching faint reflections from the sap's sheen. What unfolds here will not be a quiet meal, but a contest of strength and design, a living sumo match staged on a vertical arena of bark. The rhinoceros beetle is an embodiment of brute architecture, a tank built for vertical combat. Its horn, curving forward like the prong of a miniature excavator, is not a weapon of destruction, but of leverage. Made of hardened chitin, yet surprisingly light, the horn serves as an evolutionary lever arm, capable of flipping opponents several times its own mass. When males meet at a sap bleed or fruit patch, the contest begins with subtle posturing. They size each other up through vibrations and scent, reading pheromonal cues to gauge size and readiness. But sooner or later, one thrusts forward and the bark becomes an arena of force and balance. In slow motion, a fight between two rhinoceros beetles is a mechanical ballet. The winner is not always the strongest, but the one who best manipulates physics. Using the horn as a fulcrum, the beetle wedges it under the rival's thorax and pushes upward. The center of mass, the invisible point where the beetle's weight concentrates, shifts precariously. With a sudden heave, the rival is flipped, legs flailing as it tumbles backward off the bark. Sometimes the loser manages to cling to a root or nearby branch, dangling like a dislodged hook. Other times it falls to the leaf litter below, stunned but alive, the sap bar above now belonging to its victor. The leverage these beetles generate is extraordinary. Engineers studying rhinoceros beetles have calculated that they can lift objects up to nearly 100 times their body weight. This power originates not only from muscular force, but also from the mechanical advantage of the horn's length and curvature. The structure acts like a crowbar, amplifying small muscular inputs into powerful lifting motions. Evolution, through trial and error, has sculpted this biological tool to near perfection, each angle, ridge, and contour optimized for grip and torque. Yet the rhinoceros beetle's might is not solely a display of aggression. The horn is also an honest signal, a visual representation of the male's developmental history. Its size depends directly on the nutrition absorbed during the larval stage. For months, sometimes years, the larva lives hidden within decaying wood, chewing through rotting trunks and transforming them into fine, nutrient-rich soil. It is one of the forest's recyclers, converting dead trees into the foundation for new life. The better the quality of the decomposing wood, the more protein and energy the larva accumulates, and the larger the adult's horn will be after metamorphosis. Thus, every horn in the forest is a story written in cellulose and decay, a record of how well the beetle's younger self fed in the darkness below. Emerging from the pupa, the adult beetle carries that investment into a brief, frenetic adulthood. While most of its life is spent unseen as a grub, the mature beetle has only a few months to eat, fight, and reproduce. During this period, it becomes one of the loudest flyers in the insect world. When its wing covers lift, revealing the membranous hindwings beneath, the resulting flight hum is startlingly deep. The low-frequency vibration can be heard several meters away, often mistaken for a small drone or a distant lawnmower. The beetle's heavy body and high wing loading produce a distinctive bass note that resonates through the night forest, a sonic signature of its presence. But before flight comes the climb, and the climb demands adhesion. The bark of an oak is a treacherous terrain, rough, irregular, and often slick with sap. To scale it, the rhinoceros beetle employs specialized claws and adhesive pads on its tarsi. These structures, equipped with microscopic hairs called setae, exploit van der Waals forces and surface tension to maintain grip even on steep or inverted surfaces. Combined with a center of gravity positioned low to the ground, the beetle can cling tightly while maneuvering with astonishing stability. Every movement is calculated, each step redistributes weight to maintain frictional contact. This is essential during combat, where a slip can mean defeat. The scene intensifies. Another male has arrived, drawn by the scent of fermenting sap. The victor turns to face the newcomer, mandibles opening slightly as the forelegs brace. Their horns lock with a faint scrape, two curved blades pressing and shifting in search of leverage. Muscles strain beneath the exoskeleton, the air thick with the faint hum of effort. For a few seconds they are equal. Then, with a sudden shift in weight, one beetle hooks its horn beneath the other's thorax plate and pries upward. The loser's front legs lose purchase. Gravity takes over. In an instant, it flips backward off the bark, tumbling end over end into the darkness below. The victor, still clinging to the vertical surface, steadies itself, its body heaving with slow breaths as if aware of its triumph. What seems like brute violence is, in truth, an evolutionary dialogue. Each fight reinforces selection for strength, coordination, and horn geometry. Over countless generations, these contests shape the species' design. In tropical forests where resources like tree sap are abundant but localized, such competitions become crucial. They determine who gains access to food and mating sites. Females drawn to the scent of sap and the pheromones of victorious males often select partners based on these outcomes. Thus, the sap bleed functions as both feeding ground and courtship arena, a microcosm of energy transfer and genetic exchange. When the fighting subsides, the beetle lowers its head to feed. The mandibles, though not built for predation, are perfectly suited for scraping and lapping. The sap provides not only carbohydrates, but also yeast cultures and trace minerals essential for reproduction. The beetle drinks slowly, antennae twitching to monitor air vibrations and chemical signals. Every few moments it pauses to groom, wiping its forelegs across its antennae and eyes to remove sticky residue. This cleaning ritual is as vital as the combat itself, preserving sensory function for the next encounter. High above, a nightjar swoops silently through the canopy. The beetle's thick armor offers protection, but it cannot match the bird's precision. Only by hugging close to the bark can it hope to avoid detection. Its coloration, dark brown to black, serves as camouflage, blending with the tree's shadowed texture. Still, predation is a constant risk. Many beetles survive only a handful of nights, their legacy carried on through larvae buried deep in the wood they once consumed. Dawn approaches. The victor retreats to a crevice, tucking its horn against its body. In the daylight, it will remain motionless, conserving energy while the forest awakens. The sap bar empties, its surface dotted with dried residue and faint claw marks, a record of the previous night's struggles. When evening returns, the same drama will play again. Different contestants, same physics. Evolution's tournament never ends. It simply resets under each rising moon. The rhinoceros beetle stands as a paradox of the natural world. Its life oscillates between stillness and fury, between the quiet decay of wood and the violent immediacy of combat. Its power is both inherited and earned, drawn from the cycles of decomposition that sustain the forest. It is a recycler turned warrior, a symbol of how energy flows through ecosystems in unexpected ways. What begins as rotting timber ends as muscle and horn, transformed into motion, sound, and competition. To witness the beetle's battle is to see nature's engineering in motion, leverage, friction, and momentum united by instinct. Yet behind the spectacle lies something quieter, the enduring process by which forests renew themselves. Each larva breaking down dead wood, each adult competing for sap, contributes to the pulse of regeneration. The rhinoceros beetle, for all its armor and strength, is merely one cog in this ancient system, its might serving the equilibrium that keeps the forest alive. Morning light filters through the canopy, breaking into shards of green and gold. Below, on the damp forest floor, movement begins, not in the form of one creature but thousands. A living current flows between tree trunks and undergrowth. Ants, each carrying a fragment of leaf aloft like a sail. From a distance, the scene resembles a slow-motion parade of emerald triangles glinting in the dappled light. Yet this spectacle is not mere foraging. It is agriculture. These are leafcutter ants, members of the genus Atta and Acromyrmex, and they are among the most sophisticated farmers on Earth. To the untrained eye, they appear to be simply harvesting foliage, cutting perfect semicircles from living leaves and transporting them back to their nests. But what they carry is not food. The leaves are not eaten, they are cultivated. Each fragment will be chewed, mulched, and arranged in the dark chambers of an underground fungus garden, where it will serve as a substrate to feed a symbiotic fungus that sustains the colony. Every leaf carried is, in essence, a crop, raw material for the subterranean fields that define their civilization. The system operates with industrial precision. Along the forest floor, pheromone highways connect the canopy to the nest. Invisible to the human eye, these chemical trails are meticulously maintained, renewed, and reinforced with every pass. When a forager discovers a productive tree, it lays down a trail marked with pheromones from specialized glands on its abdomen. The scent communicates direction, distance, and even the quality of the resource. Within minutes, An entire column mobilizes, forming a living conveyor belt between the tree and the nest. Each ant has a designated role. The largest workers, known as majors, serve as defenders, patrolling the edges of the column with massive jaws capable of decapitating intruders. The medium-sized workers do the cutting, their serrated mandibles operating like precision shears. They measure the ideal arc of each incision, their muscles contracting at such force that scientists have recorded bite pressures exceeding hundreds of times their body weight. The smaller workers, called miners, patrol the leaves carried by others. Their role is critical. They guard against parasitoid flies, particularly phorid flies, that lay eggs on exposed carriers. A single fly larva can consume an ant from the inside out. To counter this, miners ride atop the leaf fragments, scanning the air with rapid movements, ready to repel or confuse the attackers. The journey home is relentless. The path may stretch for dozens of meters, a monumental distance when measured against an ant's scale. Each individual contributes a small fraction to a collective effort that can move tons of vegetation in a single season. The visual is astonishing, a shimmering highway of motion, leaves bobbing rhythmically above the soil, the forest itself seemingly alive and moving. Yet beneath this organized surface lies a system of remarkable complexity, one that rivals human agriculture in efficiency and scale. Deep below ground, the true civilization unfolds. The leaf fragments are delivered into vast subterranean chambers, cathedrals of soil and humidity. Here, smaller worker castes take over. They macerate the leaf material into a pulp using their mandibles and saliva, creating a moist, nutrient-rich paste. This paste is then inoculated with tiny pieces of fungal mycelium collected from older gardens. The ants cultivate a particular species of fungus from the genus Leucoagaricus, which cannot survive outside the colony. It is the ant's sole food source, and in return, it provides a constant yield of nutrient-packed fungal nodules that sustain workers, soldiers, and larvae alike. This partnership between ant and fungus has persisted for tens of millions of years, representing one of the most successful examples of mutualism in nature. Over time, both species have become completely interdependent. The ants cannot survive without the fungus, and the fungus cannot reproduce without the ants. Each generation inherits not just the colony's genetic material, but also its microbial inheritance, a culture, in every sense of the word, passed down through queens that carry fungal fragments in their mouthparts during nuptial flights to establish new colonies. But agriculture brings risk as well as reward. Just as human crops suffer from diseases and pests, the ants' fungal gardens face threats from parasitic molds, particularly Escovopsis, which can devastate entire colonies if left unchecked. To counter this, leafcutter ants employ another symbiotic partner, a species of actinobacteria that grows in patches along their exoskeleton, most visibly on the shoulders of the worker caste. These white, powdery shoulder pads are living chemical factories, producing antibiotics that inhibit fungal infections. The ants actively spread these bacteria across their gardens, applying them like biological pesticides. This integration of microbial allies represents one of the earliest known examples of natural antibiotic use, predating human discovery by tens of millions of years. The ant's miniature pharmacy is not static, it evolves. Different colonies host slightly different strains of bacteria, each tuned to resist local pathogens. This dynamic coevolution creates a resilient agricultural ecosystem, maintained not by technology but by natural selection. Above ground, the flow continues. A gap opens along the pheromone trail, a fallen branch or small ravine interrupting the march. The ants respond with astonishing coordination. Within moments, they begin to link bodies, clinging leg to leg and mandible to leg, until a living bridge forms across the obstacle. Hundreds of individuals create a chain, their bodies forming a flexible span over which their sisters walk, each carrying her green cargo. When the passage is complete, the bridge disassembles just as efficiently. No command was given, no leader decided. The intelligence lies in the network itself, a self-organizing algorithm encoded in the behavior of the colony. To watch them is to witness an ancient principle at work, complexity emerging from simplicity. Each ant follows a set of basic rules. Follow the pheromone, cut the leaf, avoid collision, protect the cargo. Yet from these simple actions arises a system capable of sophisticated problem-solving, resource allocation, and environmental adaptation. This decentralized intelligence is what biologists call swarm logic, and it has inspired human research into robotics, traffic systems, and artificial intelligence. Inside the nest, temperature and humidity remain tightly regulated. The fungal gardens require near-constant conditions to thrive, slightly warm, damp, and rich in carbon dioxide. The ants maintain this equilibrium through an intricate system of tunnels and vents that promote airflow. Workers continuously excavate and repair these structures, shifting soil and altering gradients to control microclimate. The colony functions as a living lung, breathing with the rhythm of the forest. At the heart of this subterranean metropolis lies the queen, a single individual responsible for all reproduction. She can live for more than a decade, laying thousands of eggs, each destined to become a specialized worker, soldier, or reproductive. Her presence is the colony's heartbeat. When she dies, the entire system slowly collapses. Yet even in death, her body feeds the fungi that once sustained her, closing the loop of life and decay. Above ground, dusk descends. The leafcutter highways begin to fade as workers retreat into the nest, their paths still marked by residual pheromones that will guide tomorrow's shift. Predators lurk, armadillos, anteaters, and birds that have learned to dig into the soil to reach the chambers below. But the ants have built layers of defense. Deep tunnels collapse behind intruders, and some chambers are sealed entirely, their entrances disguised by debris. Survival here depends not on armor or venom, but on architecture and cooperation. As night deepens, the forest hums with hidden activity. The sap from wounded trees glistens, beetles emerge, frogs call from the undergrowth. But beneath all this, the colony breathes, farms, and endures. In a world where most insects live solitary lives measured in weeks, the leafcutter ant exists as a civilization in miniature, its continuity measured not in individuals, but in generations of shared labor and microbial partnership. What began as a simple act of leaf cutting is, in truth, one of evolution's grandest achievements, a fully integrated society built upon agriculture, chemical communication, and microbial technology. The green fragments carried through the forest are not just sustenance, they are the foundation of a living empire. And while the ants themselves remain unaware of their own genius, the forest depends on it. Their tunnels aerate the soil, their farming enriches it, and their constant pruning stimulates new plant growth. They are both consumers and caretakers, engineers of the ecosystem, shaping it one leaf at a time. When the first light of dawn returns, the highways will awaken again. The green procession will resume its steady march, silent but unstoppable. Each cut, each carried fragment, will feed not an individual but a system, an underground civilization whose ingenuity has outlived empires and will likely outlast our own. Under the shelter of a wooden eave between shadow and sunlight hangs a structure that seems delicate, almost ornamental, a paper comb suspended by a single stalk. Yet inside this fragile-looking city unfolds a story of architecture, social order, and chemical warfare. Each hexagonal cell has been sculpted not from plant fiber or soil, but from paper, handmade by the very creatures that inhabit it. The wasps move across the surface with mechanical precision, their bodies shimmering in shades of amber and black. What appears to be chaos is, in truth, an organized society humming with biological purpose. The making of this paper city begins with a queen. In early spring, when the air first warms, a fertilized queen emerges from hibernation. Her energy reserves low, but her mission clear. She seeks a place protected from rain and direct sunlight, beneath roof edges, branches, or cliff overhangs. There she begins to chew dry wood, mixing the fibers with her saliva. Enzymes in that saliva break down lignin and cellulose, creating a pulp that she molds into thin layers. Once dried, these layers harden into a lightweight but strong material, the foundation of her nest. Each sheet is added meticulously, pressed into form by the queen's mandibles. From these modest beginnings, just a few cells at first, will arise a colony that may number in the hundreds. This process of pulp making is both ancient and ingenious. Long before humans discovered paper, wasps were pioneering its craft. The thin walls of their nests demonstrate the ideal balance between flexibility and strength. The layered fibers dissipate heat and allow airflow, creating a structure that is thermally stable yet breathable. The queen's early brood will hatch into sterile female workers, her daughters, who assume all construction, maintenance, and defense duties as the season advances. Each layer of comb they add spirals outward, a perfect geometry of repeated pattern and collective effort. Inside, the colony's rhythm never ceases. Workers tend to the larvae that fill the hexagonal cells, feeding them chewed-up insects rich in protein. The adults themselves subsist mainly on carbohydrates, sweet sap, nectar, or fruit juices, but the larvae require protein to build tissue. This creates a fascinating exchange between generations. Adult workers hunt and butcher prey, caterpillars, flies, even spiders, and feed the protein-rich paste to their developing young. In return, the larvae secrete droplets of sugary fluid, which the adults consume. It is a form of biological reciprocity, meat for the young, sugar for the old. The entire colony's energy economy is built on this feedback loop, converting captured life into sustenance for the community. The wasp's hunting behavior reveals their precision and efficiency as predators. Armed with powerful mandibles and a venomous sting, a single worker can immobilize prey far larger than itself. The venom does not simply kill, it paralyzes. This is critical, for freshly paralyzed victims remain alive but motionless, their tissues preserved. The wasps dismember them piece by piece, returning soft segments to the nest to feed the larvae. In some solitary wasp species, such as mud daubers or potter wasps, paralyzed spiders are stored whole, each one placed in a clay chamber with an egg before being sealed away. The larva hatches and feeds on the still-living prey, ensuring fresh meat throughout its growth. Even among social wasps, this practice of live storage echoes an ancient lineage of predation honed through chemical mastery. Within the nest, temperature regulation is vital. The larvae require stable warmth to develop properly, yet the nest's thin paper walls provide little insulation. The colony compensates through coordinated thermoregulation. Workers fan their wings to circulate air when temperatures rise, preventing overheating. During cool mornings, others vibrate their flight muscles without taking off, generating heat much as bees do. This collective management of climate allows the colony to maintain internal stability despite fluctuating external conditions. The queen, though she rarely leaves the nest, remains the nucleus of this entire system. Her pheromones govern the colony's behavior, suppressing the reproductive development of her daughters and maintaining order. As the population expands, her dominance weakens, and by late summer, new queens and males begin to emerge. Their purpose is singular, to mate and disperse, carrying the genetic blueprint to future colonies. The founding queen, having fulfilled her biological role, will die as autumn sets in, leaving behind an empty husk of paper that will not survive the winter. But in the heat of midsummer, the nest is at its zenith, alive with purpose, humming with coordinated motion. The air around it vibrates faintly with wing beats, the sound of collective effort. Yet this calm belies a dangerous undercurrent, the defense mechanism that makes wasps both feared and respected. Their society is wired for alarm. When a threat approaches, be it a bird, a rodent, or an unfortunate human, one wasp's sting releases volatile compounds known as alarm pheromones. These chemical signals spread through the air instantaneously, triggering an aggressive response from nearby workers. The attack is not random, it is a coordinated surge, guided by scent. This is why one swat can turn into many. To strike a single wasp is to send a signal of war to the entire colony. Each sting delivers venom designed for both pain and efficiency. It contains a cocktail of peptides and enzymes that cause immediate inflammation, increasing blood flow to spread the compounds quickly. Some species include kinins that disrupt nerve transmission, amplifying pain perception. In evolutionary terms, the sting serves two functions: to subdue prey and to deter large animals. Few predators persist in attacking a nest after experiencing the first wave of defenders. The deterrence is so effective that even birds learn to avoid nests by sight alone. Despite their reputation for aggression, wasps are crucial players in the ecosystem. Their predation helps control pest populations, protecting crops and maintaining ecological balance. The protein they collect from caterpillars and flies indirectly shapes entire food webs, influencing which plants thrive and which do not. Some species are even pollinators, transferring pollen while foraging for nectar. Their dual role, as both hunter and pollinator, makes them a keystone of many temperate and tropical ecosystems. From a structural perspective, the nest itself is a marvel of engineering. Each hexagonal cell maximizes space and material efficiency, minimizing the amount of paper required while maintaining strength. The repeating geometry also distributes load evenly across the structure, allowing expansion without collapse. As the colony grows, new layers are added below the old ones, forming multi-tiered combs connected by narrow stalks. The outer envelope, built in some species, serves as insulation and camouflage, blending with bark or eaves to deter detection. The design, though instinctual, mirrors principles that architects and engineers would recognize: lightweight construction, modular design, and passive climate control. Even decay plays a role in the colony's legacy. When winter arrives and the paper cities crumble under rain and frost, they return to the soil, enriching it with organic matter. The wood fibers that once protected larvae become nutrients for the next generation of plants, the same trees that will provide pulp for the queens of spring. The cycle renews itself in quiet continuity, a testament to the wasp's integration into the fabric of the ecosystem. Viewed closely, the life of a wasp colony reveals not chaos but choreography, a collective intelligence governed by chemical communication, behavioral specialization, and evolutionary refinement. Each worker, though short-lived, contributes to a pattern larger than herself, a living city built from instinct, saliva, and fiber. The nest may last only one season, but the lineage endures across millennia, replicated through the memory of behavior encoded in DNA. As twilight deepens and the day's heat dissipates, the wasps retreat into their paper chambers. The comb glows faintly in the fading light, a monument to efficiency and design. Tomorrow, the foragers will resume their flights, seeking wood to chew, prey to capture, and nectar to sip. Their society may seem small, but its logic echoes the greater principles of life itself: construction, cooperation, and defense, all driven by the chemistry of survival. The paper city sways gently in the night breeze. From within, the faint rustle of wings sounds like a pulse, the heartbeat of a civilization suspended in air, alive for one fleeting summer, yet written into the blueprint of evolution. Dawn breaks softly across the understory, where the forest floor is a patchwork of filtered light and trembling shadow. Among the tangle of stems and leaves, nothing seems to move, until, with careful observation, one notices that a twig is breathing. Its long, jointed body rocks in rhythm with the morning breeze, its limbs aligned perfectly with the narrow branches around it. This is no twig at all, but a stick insect, a living illusion engineered by evolution to dissolve into the scenery. To the untrained eye, it is invisible. To the trained one, it is a marvel of biomechanical artistry, where movement itself becomes camouflage. The art of concealment in the stick insect is not static. It is dynamic, choreographed, and deeply responsive to the microcurrents of air. As the forest breathes, the insect sways perfectly in time with the surrounding vegetation. Scientists call this motion mimicry, an adaptive behavior in which the insect matches the oscillations of nearby leaves and stems to avoid detection. When a gust passes, it does not cling rigidly to its perch. Instead, it yields, allowing its body to drift in near-perfect synchrony with the environment. Predators such as birds, mantises, or lizards, which rely heavily on motion to detect prey, are deceived by this performance. The stick insect becomes a part of the wind's choreography, a participant in nature's unspoken rhythm rather than a separate entity within it. To appreciate the sophistication of this disguise, one must look closely at the details of its anatomy. Every segment of the stick insect's body is sculpted to echo the irregular geometry of twigs, the knobby joints, the pale scars resembling leaf nodes, even the subtle lichen-like speckling that breaks up its outline. Some species possess flattened extensions along their legs and thorax that mimic bark or leaf veins, complete with micro-patterns that reflect polarized light exactly as real plant tissue does. This optical mimicry is so precise that it can fool not only predators but also human observers armed with magnifying lenses. What makes it extraordinary, however, is not the appearance alone, it is the behavior that sustains it. Without movement, the illusion would falter. The stick insect must act its role without pause, performing the forest's subtle dance through every hour of its vulnerable existence. When danger looms, the insect has another tactic, a sudden theatrical drop. If a bird's shadow crosses overhead, or a vibration runs through the branch, the stick insect releases its grip and falls, legs drawn tightly to the body, landing silently on the leaf litter below. There it performs thanatosis, feigning death with astonishing stillness. The body lies rigid, antennae flattened, color blending with the detritus of bark and stem. Many predators lose interest immediately, for dead insects are often unappetizing or difficult to detect against the ground's complexity. This act of false death is not mere panic, it is strategy, honed by millions of years of selective pressure. Once the threat passes, the insect rights itself with deliberate grace and climbs again, as if the fall had never happened. Over the course of its life, a stick insect faces not only predators, but the challenge of physical fragility. Limbs are easily lost, snapped in a fall or seized by an attacking spider. Yet even this vulnerability has been answered by evolution with quiet resilience. Stick insects possess remarkable regenerative powers. If a leg is lost during the early stages of development, it can be regrown across successive molts. Each shedding of the exoskeleton is an opportunity for renewal, the replacement limb emerging first as a small, translucent version, then gradually reaching full size over the next few instars. This capacity for regeneration is tied to their hemolymph flow and hormonal cycles, with ecdysone levels dictating when and how the new tissue forms. It is an elegant system, one that allows survival through partial loss, a biological insurance policy in a world where perfection rarely endures. Their development follows a process known as incomplete metamorphosis. Unlike butterflies or beetles, which transition through a pupal stage, stick insects hatch as miniature versions of the adult, differing only in size and proportion. With each molt, they grow larger, their color and texture adapting to match the changing seasons. Some species shift from bright green in the rainy months to a bark-like brown in the dry season, an adaptive response to the shifting palette of the forest. Others alter their behavior, becoming nocturnal during vulnerable growth phases to minimize exposure to diurnal predators. Reproduction in these creatures offers another layer of evolutionary intrigue. While many species reproduce sexually, others have abandoned the necessity of males altogether through a process known as parthenogenesis. In these lineages, females lay unfertilized eggs that hatch into genetically identical daughters. This reproductive shortcut allows colonies to persist even when isolated from potential mates, ensuring continuity in regions where populations are sparse. In some parthenogenetic species, males have not been observed for decades, their genetic contributions erased by time. It is a strategy that trades diversity for certainty, a calculated gamble that favors survival over adaptation. The eggs themselves are small architectural wonders, designed to mimic the seeds of forest plants. Their outer shells are often patterned, ridged, and sometimes even equipped with structures resembling elaiosomes, fatty attachments that attract ants. The ants, mistaking them for edible seeds, carry the eggs into their nests, where they remain safe from predators and weather. When the nymphs eventually hatch, they climb out of the nest and ascend toward the canopy, resuming the lineage's quiet cycle of mimicry. This unintentional alliance between insect and ant demonstrates how natural selection shapes cooperation even in the absence of awareness. As daylight deepens and the forest warms, the stick insect embarks on one of its most perilous routines, crossing the territories of others. Here, in the low brush, a web stretches between stems, a silken net belonging to an orb-weaver spider. To the spider, even the faintest vibration is an alarm, a map of movement that reveals the size and location of prey. The stick insect navigating this invisible barrier must rely on exquisite sensory awareness. Its long antennae, covered in microscopic sensory hairs, probe the air ahead, reading shifts in humidity and vibration. Every movement is deliberate, every contact calculated to avoid disturbing the web's tension. A misplaced step would trigger disaster, a predator alerted to its presence within seconds. Slowly the insect adjusts its weight, inch by inch, slipping past the silken strands as though dancing between tripwires. When it finally clears the danger zone, it resumes its swaying rhythm, as if the brush with death were nothing more than another step in its endless performance. Such precision and patience define its existence. The stick insect's life is not one of action, but of restraint, an embodiment of the principle that survival sometimes favors stillness over speed. Yet within that stillness lies extraordinary complexity. It must balance camouflage, reproduction, and regeneration, while contending with a world full of sensory predators, each attuned to motion, scent, and pattern. Its success depends not on dominance, but on disappearance. There is irony in this mastery of invisibility. The better the adaptation, the less likely it is to be noticed. Entire populations of stick insects can inhabit a forest unnoticed for years, their presence betrayed only by the rare flash of movement or the discovery of eggs in the soil. Even scientists studying them struggle to track individuals, for tagging one risks compromising its disguise. Their evolutionary story, therefore, unfolds in whispers, a lineage refined not through conquest, but through vanishing. As dusk descends, the forest transforms. The day's predators retreat, and the nocturnal ones awaken. The stick insect remains where it is, its elongated body silhouetted against the fading light, indistinguishable from the branch it clings to. Moths flutter past, frogs call from the leaf litter, and the air thickens with humidity. In this atmosphere, every breath of wind becomes its ally, every tremor a cue. The insect sways once more, an unbroken continuation of the dance it has performed since the first moment of daylight. To witness it is to glimpse evolution's quiet genius, a creature that survives not by force or speed, but by imitation so perfect that even perception itself is deceived. Its life may seem uneventful, but in its stillness lies an intricate balance between vulnerability and resilience, fragility and endurance. Every movement, every molt, every silent crossing through the forest's perilous geometry is part of a choreography written by time itself. When the night finally claims the forest, the stick insect vanishes completely. The twig remains, motionless and unremarkable, as if nothing had ever lived there at all. But the illusion endures, waiting for dawn to stir the air again, and with it, the unseen dancer who knows every note of the wind. The forest begins to cool as the sun sinks behind the canopy, and the last shafts of daylight slide through the leaves in long golden beams. Suspended between two branches, a vast web catches the fading light and transforms it into a metallic shimmer. From certain angles it appears almost liquid, an expanse of spun brass strung delicately between the trees. This is the domain of the golden silk orb-weaver, one of the world's most accomplished engineers of silk and geometry. Its creation glows not by accident but by design, each strand tuned by evolution to manipulate light, air, and life itself. To approach the web is to step into a zone of precision and physics. The orb-weaver's construction is a masterpiece of structural differentiation, two primary types of silk working in concert. The framework and radial spokes are made from dragline silk, a protein filament with extraordinary tensile strength. Microscopic analysis reveals that, gram for gram, it rivals high-grade steel in durability, while remaining flexible enough to absorb impact without breaking. It is the architecture of the web, the skeleton that holds the structure taut against wind, rain, and the force of struggling prey. Then there is the capture spiral, the sticky golden thread that gives the spider its name. This silk is very different in composition, softer and elastic, coated with droplets of glycoprotein glue. The droplets are hygroscopic, meaning their stickiness changes with humidity. On humid mornings, the glue becomes more adhesive, ideal for trapping the day's insects when their wings are damp and slow. In drier air, The droplets contract, reducing stickiness to prevent debris buildup and preserve energy. The spider's silk chemistry is self-regulating, responding automatically to environmental conditions. It is a passive system of adaptation, one that adjusts to the weather without conscious control, the result of millions of years of natural engineering. As daylight deepens into amber, the web's metallic glow intensifies. Many of the insects that blunder into it are diurnal flyers, bees, butterflies, and small wasps drawn by ultraviolet light. To their compound eyes, the web doesn't appear as a trap. It glows in wavelengths that mimic the spectral reflection of flower petals. Studies have shown that the golden silk reflects ultraviolet light in a pattern nearly identical to that of nectar-rich blooms. To a butterfly or bee searching for pollen, the web seems like an oasis. The deception is flawless, an optical illusion spun from protein and sunlight. At the center of the web sits the architect herself, a female several times larger than the males of her species. Her legs stretch outward, each resting on a separate strand, allowing her to monitor vibrations across the entire structure. Every tremor, every pulse of air transmits data about the outside world: a leaf brushing past, a moth's wing beat, a struggling beetle. Through these vibrations, she reads her surroundings with a sensitivity that rivals sight. The radial arrangement of the web functions like a sensory grid, with different frequencies corresponding to different types of movement. A light, intermittent buzz signals a small insect caught near the edge. A heavy, erratic shudder may mean something larger, a dragonfly or grasshopper ensnared near the hub. When prey strikes, the orb-weaver reacts instantly. She rushes toward the vibration source, moving along the non-sticky spokes with mechanical precision. Her legs are coated with oil-like secretions that prevent adherence to the capture threads. Upon arrival, she assesses the prey's potential threat. Some insects can bite, kick, or secrete chemicals that might damage the web. If the risk is minimal, she lunges forward, delivering a venomous bite that paralyzes almost instantly. The venom, a complex mix of neurotoxins and enzymes, begins digesting tissue even before the meal reaches her mouth. But if the prey struggles too violently, she employs a different tactic: rapid wrapping. The wrapping sequence is one of nature's most elegant predatory dances. The spider anchors a dragline with her hind legs and uses her front limbs to spin sheets of silk over the prey in swift figure-8 motions. Each pass of the spinnerets tightens the cocoon until movement ceases. This wrapping silk is distinct from the web's other threads. Fine, smooth, and non-sticky, designed for restraint rather than capture. The result is a parcel of immobilized life, suspended and stored for later consumption. She may feed immediately or leave it to hang, a living larder preserved in silk. For all its apparent stillness, the orb-weaver's world is one of constant maintenance. The web must be rebuilt regularly, often every few days, as dust, debris, and repeated captures degrade the silk's elasticity. Rather than abandon the structure, the spider consumes it. She eats her own web, recycling the protein to spin anew. This behavior demonstrates an extraordinary efficiency. Nothing is wasted. The cycle of deconstruction and reconstruction continues throughout the season, each iteration subtly adjusted to changing winds and prey frequencies. The golden silk orb-weaver's silk has intrigued humans for centuries. In certain tropical regions, locals have harvested the threads to create rare golden textiles. The silk's sheen does not fade with time, a property unique among natural fibers. Scientists have since discovered that its color arises from nanostructures within the silk proteins, which scatter and reflect light differently depending on angle and intensity. It is not pigment that gives it gold, but physics. Beyond its engineering, the web also hosts an intricate social drama. Males, small enough to go unnoticed at a glance, inhabit the fringes of the female's web. Their size difference is staggering, the male often less than 1/10 her mass. For him, the web is both courtship ground and death zone. To approach the female is to risk being mistaken for prey. Yet, driven by evolutionary necessity, he ventures inward, moving cautiously along the radial lines. His survival depends on vibration etiquette. If he moves too abruptly or sends the wrong frequency through the silk, the female will strike without hesitation. When courting, the male taps the web in coded rhythms, producing a pattern of pulses distinct from those of struggling insects. This sequence, part vibration pause, acts as a password, signaling mate, not meal. Still, the approach remains perilous. The female, massive and motionless, senses him through the tremors, but does not always respond favorably. Some males wait for her to be distracted by feeding before attempting copulation, sneaking close enough to deposit sperm via specialized appendages called pedipalps. Even then, the act can end fatally. In some species, the female consumes the male after mating, either by predation or simply by failing to distinguish him from prey once the encounter ends. Such lethal intimacy might seem counterproductive, but it has evolutionary logic. A consumed male transfers both his genes and his nutrients to the next generation. The energy he provides may directly enhance the survival of his offspring. In this strange economy of life and death, the act of reproduction becomes a final investment. The spider's domain extends beyond her web. Parasites and kleptoparasitic spiders often linger in the shadows, feeding on her leftovers or stealing fresh catches. Tiny dewdrop spiders, named for their silvery bodies, move among the strands unnoticed, siphoning food fragments from the edges of wrapped prey. The orb-weaver tolerates them to an extent, perhaps because their thefts are minor compared to the cost of constant aggression. The web thus becomes a micro-ecosystem, predator, prey, and scavenger bound together by silk and circumstance. As twilight deepens into night, the metallic sheen of the web fades into darkness, replaced by reflections of moonlight and stars. Moths now replace the daytime bees and wasps, drawn not by ultraviolet reflections, but by the geometry itself, a hazard of their erratic flight. The spider waits, poised in the center, her legs stretched in perfect symmetry. Each vibration, each tremor of air, is passed and judged, the difference between empty wind and opportunity. In the broader ecological picture, orb-weavers play a silent but vital role. Their webs remove countless flying insects from the air each night, regulating populations that might otherwise overwhelm vegetation. They are both sculptors and custodians of balance, converting fleeting energy, wing beat and flight, into stability within the food web. Their golden silk, shining in the light of dusk, becomes a symbol of that equilibrium, delicate, temporary, and yet enduring through uncounted generations. By dawn, the web glistens once more with dew, each droplet turning the structure into a suspended constellation. The female inspects the threads, testing for damage, repairing breaks with swift precision. The rhythm of her life continues: build, hunt, recycle, rest. To the forest, she is a single organism. To evolution, she is a lineage of builders, refining the physics of silk across millions of years. The sun climbs, striking the web again. For a brief moment it flares like spun metal, a fleeting signal of perfection suspended in air. Then the breeze shifts and the golden light dissolves, leaving only a shimmer among the leaves where the metallic net once glowed. The desert at night seems lifeless at first glance. Wind moves in shallow breaths across the dunes, whispering through sparse tufts of dry grass and stone. The heat of the day has bled away, replaced by the brittle chill of starlight. Beneath a thin crescent moon, even shadows appear drained of color. Only the outlines of rocks and shrubs define the landscape. Yet hidden among them, still and silent, lies a hunter from a far older world. Its armor is black, its form prehistoric. It waits motionless near the mouth of its burrow, claws spread, tail arched over its back like a question mark. Then, as an ultraviolet beam passes across the sand, the scorpion erupts into ghostly brilliance. Its exoskeleton, black to the human eye, glows a spectral blue-green under ultraviolet light, an effect that seems supernatural, but is entirely chemical. The outer layer of the scorpion's cuticle, composed of compounds like beta-carboline and 7-hydroxy-4-methylcoumarin, absorbs ultraviolet radiation and re-emits it as visible light. Scientists still debate the purpose of this fluorescence. Some propose that it acts as a light filter, shielding internal tissues from harmful radiation. Others suggest it plays a role in nocturnal perception, allowing scorpions, which themselves can detect ultraviolet, to gauge moonlight intensity and decide when to hunt. Whatever its purpose, the glow is one of evolution's most haunting coincidences, a living fossil that turns ethereal in darkness. The black scorpion's anatomy speaks of both offense and restraint. Its large claws, called chelae, serve as the first line of attack, designed to seize, crush, and manipulate prey. Muscular and textured, they deliver mechanical power with remarkable precision. The tail, or metasoma, houses a different kind of weapon, the venomous stinger. Contrary to popular imagination, the scorpion does not sting out of reflex or fury. Its use of venom is calculated, an act of biological economics. Venom is metabolically expensive to produce, and each injection must justify its cost. When facing smaller, soft-bodied prey, crickets, beetles, or moths, the scorpion may rely solely on its claws to subdue the victim, conserving venom for larger or more resistant opponents. Against sizable or armored prey, it employs what scientists call metered envenomation, a measured dose tailored to the target's size and struggle. This precision hints at a primitive intelligence, a sensory feedback system honed by millions of years of desert nights. To locate prey in the near-total dark, the scorpion relies not on sight, but on touch. Its eyes, though numerous, offer only limited resolution, a faint sense of brightness and movement. Instead, the desert floor is its map, and vibration is its language. The scorpion's body is covered in fine mechanosensory hairs, each one a detector of air movement and surface tremors. These hairs, called trichobothria, are sensitive enough to register the air displacement of an approaching beetle several centimeters away. Beneath its claws and legs lie slit sensilla, microscopic cracks in the exoskeleton that bend in response to substrate vibrations. Through them, the scorpion can triangulate the origin of movement with uncanny accuracy, distinguishing the shuffle of prey from the rumble of wind. To such a creature, the desert floor is alive with invisible signals, the scrape of a lizard's claw, the flutter of a moth's landing, the faint pulse of its own heartbeat reflected through sand. When the prey is located, the attack unfolds with brutal economy. The scorpion freezes, then surges forward in a short burst of motion. The claws strike first, snapping shut with mechanical certainty. If the prey resists, the tail curves downward in a smooth arc, the sting piercing with surgical precision. Venom floods the wound, paralyzing within seconds. The scorpion then begins its ritual feeding. Because it cannot chew, it injects digestive enzymes into the prey, dissolving internal tissues into a nutrient-rich slurry. This liquid meal is then drawn up through its preoral cavity, leaving behind only an empty exoskeleton. It is efficiency distilled into flesh and chemistry, nothing wasted, nothing left to chance. By day, the black scorpion vanishes from view, retreating into its burrow. The desert, though cool at night, turns lethal under the sun. Surface temperatures soar high enough to desiccate an exposed arthropod in minutes. The burrow, dug by the scorpion's claws, becomes a refuge where humidity and temperature remain stable. Its structure is simple yet functional, a narrow entrance leading to a chamber deep enough to avoid thermal extremes. Within, the air stays moist, preserving both the scorpion's water balance and the integrity of its delicate respiratory structures, the book lungs. These paired organs housed within the abdomen function through passive diffusion, thin lamellae stacked like pages of a book, exchanging gases without the need for active pumping. This low-energy respiration suits the scorpion's slow metabolism, allowing it to survive for months without food or water. In this subterranean refuge, life continues at a pace set by geological time. The female, larger and heavier than the male, rules the burrow. Her role extends beyond predation to motherhood, a duty marked by both tenderness and danger. When she gives birth, the young emerge alive, soft-bodied and translucent, climbing immediately onto her back. They cling there, protected from predators and desiccation, feeding on the moisture from her cuticle. For several days they ride with her as she hunts, learning the vibrations of the desert from the safety of her armored form. Only after their first molt do they descend, their exoskeletons hardened and their instincts sharpened. Many will disperse to dig burrows of their own, but few will survive the trials of their first year. In the desert, survival is always a numbers game weighted heavily against the young. Courtship among black scorpions unfolds with an ancient formality. When a male encounters a receptive female, he begins a cautious dance, a sequence of tactile cues performed through their claws. He grasps her pincers and leads her in what biologists poetically call the promenade à deux. Together they move across the sand, searching for a suitable surface where the male can deposit his spermatophore, a capsule of sperm. Once positioned, he guides her over it, ensuring contact and transfer. The ritual is slow, deliberate, and risky. If the female grows impatient or misreads his vibrations, the encounter may end with her stinger instead of reproduction. The male's survival depends on timing and restraint. Evolution has written this choreography in the language of vibration, where every movement carries both promise and peril. The scorpion's evolutionary history stretches deep into prehistory. Fossil evidence shows that its ancestors once lived in shallow seas over 400 million years ago, among the first arthropods to colonize land. Their physiology still carries traces of that origin. The book lungs derived from the gill structures of aquatic forebears. The cuticle evolved to prevent water loss. Even their sensory systems reflect an ancient adaptation to a world dominated by touch rather than sight. Each night that a black scorpion emerges from its burrow is a reenactment of an evolutionary lineage older than forests, older than vertebrate flight, older than mammals. The role of scorpions in their ecosystems is subtle but essential. As mid-level predators, they regulate insect and arachnid populations, maintaining balance in fragile desert food webs. They in turn serve as prey for owls, bats, and small nocturnal mammals that have evolved resistance to their venom. The desert's rhythm of predation and survival revolves around such delicate reciprocities. The scorpion's existence may seem solitary, but it is intricately connected to the web of life that surrounds it. Under the moon, the desert transforms once more. The ultraviolet glow that betrays the scorpion to human eyes remains invisible to most of its natural predators. To the human observer armed with a blacklight, however, the effect is mesmerizing, a living spectre moving through pale sand. The creature pauses, tail curved, claws extended, reading vibrations invisible to sight. It is at once ancient and modern, simple and complex, a predator shaped not by speed or strength, but by sensitivity and restraint. As the night wanes, the scorpion withdraws into its burrow, the faint shimmer fading with the first light of dawn. The wind erases its tracks within minutes, and the desert resumes its silence. Yet beneath the surface, life persists, waiting for the next moon to rise and reveal, for a brief moment, the glowing ghosts that haunt the ultraviolet night. The forest at midday is alive with heat. The air trembles above the soil, each shimmer distorting the outlines of trees and leaves. It is the hour when most creatures withdraw, when reptiles retreat beneath stones and birds still their calls. Yet this is when another sound rises, swelling like pressure inside the skull. From every direction comes a rolling, pulsating drone, a continuous wall of vibration that seems less heard than felt. The cicadas have begun their chorus. What begins as a single pulse becomes an overwhelming mechanical hum, a sound so intense it can approach the volume of a passing train. At close range, the air around each insect vibrates at nearly 100 decibels, a volume on par with thunderclaps or chainsaws. And yet, these creatures are barely the size of a thumb. To understand the cicada's song, one must first see the instrument that produces it. Hidden beneath the folded wings of the male are two ribbed membranes known as tymbals. Each tymbal is a thin, drum-like plate of cuticle attached to a powerful muscle. When the muscle contracts, it bends the tymbal inward until the cuticle buckles with a sharp click. When the muscle relaxes, the tymbal snaps back, producing another click. The muscle fires several hundred times per second, generating a rapid series of pulses that merge into the signature cicada tone. What makes this sound truly deafening, however, is resonance. Beneath the tymbals lie hollow air sacs, internal cavities that act as amplifiers, much like the body of a guitar. These air-filled chambers magnify each pulse, reflecting and merging waves until the sound expands into a full-bodied roar. The cicada's body, in effect, becomes a living loudspeaker, its own anatomy tuned to the acoustics of its call. Each species of cicada produces a distinct rhythm and frequency, ensuring that their songs do not overlap in confusion. In dense forests, dozens of species may share the same habitat, each singing at slightly different pitches, forming a natural spectrum of sound. Some calls are sharp and percussive, others a sustained vibration that seems to melt into the air itself. The dominant frequency of many cicada calls falls between 4 and 7 kHz, precisely within the range most easily detected by their mates, and just beyond the pitch sensitivity of many predators. The result is a communication channel optimized for attraction and survival. But this thunderous voice hides a secret. It belongs to a creature that has spent most of its life in silence. Beneath the soil, cicada nymphs live unseen for years, some for as long as 17. They feed not on roots themselves, but on the xylem fluid that flows through them, a liquid poor in nutrients and rich in water. To survive on such lean fare, cicada nymphs have evolved internal partnerships with symbiotic bacteria that synthesize the essential amino acids and vitamins absent from xylem sap. These microorganisms live within specialized cells called bacteriocytes, transforming the insect's digestive system into a microfactory of mutual benefit. Without them, the cicada's long subterranean childhood would be impossible. During these hidden years, the nymphs tunnel through the soil with slow, methodical persistence. They move deeper in winter to avoid freezing, then closer to the surface when the ground warms. Their world is defined by moisture gradients and the faint pulse of plant roots. Each season passes unnoticed by the surface world. Then, at a precise moment, often synchronized across millions of individuals, they rise. This synchronized emergence is one of nature's most astonishing spectacles. On certain nights, triggered by soil temperature reaching roughly 18 degrees Celsius, the ground seems to boil with life. Nymphs crawl upward by the thousands, scaling tree trunks and fence posts, splitting open their shells and unfolding pale, soft wings into the night air. Within hours, their exoskeletons harden, and the next day the forest explodes into sound. The reason for this mass emergence lies not in cooperation, but in arithmetic. By appearing all at once, in numbers too vast for predators to consume, the cicadas ensure that enough will survive to reproduce. This is predator satiation, an evolutionary strategy where abundance itself becomes a shield. Birds, reptiles, and mammals feast until they can eat no more, and still the trees are heavy with singing survivors. The most famous practitioners of this strategy are the periodical cicadas of North America, which emerge in synchronized broods every 13 or 17 years. These prime number cycles minimize overlap between broods, reducing hybridization and confusing potential predators who cannot adapt to such irregular intervals. The timing is precise, encoded in the insect's internal clocks and synchronized by temperature cues. For years they wait underground, counting the passage of seasons through subtle changes in root chemistry and soil temperature, until the signal arrives. Then, as if obeying a silent command, millions surface within days of one another, overwhelming every predator in their ecosystem. It is one of evolution's most mathematical triumphs, safety through temporal rarity. For cicadas that emerge annually or in tropical regions, synchronization operates on a smaller scale but with similar efficiency. Their choruses ebb and flow with the day's temperature. In the morning, the first notes rise tentatively as the air warms and the insect's muscles gain energy. By noon, the sound reaches its peak, an unbroken sonic curtain that can drown out nearly all other noise. When temperatures climb too high, some species quiet themselves to avoid overheating, resuming only as the evening cools. The rhythm of their song mirrors the rhythm of thermal energy, a direct dialogue between biology and climate. The cicada's life above ground is brief, a few weeks at most. During this time, the males devote nearly every waking moment to singing. Their call serves one purpose: to attract females. The volume, duration, and consistency of a male's song signal his stamina and health. Females, listening from nearby branches, respond with subtle wing flicks that produce clicking sounds. Once a male detects this cue, he adjusts his song and moves closer, continuing to sing until contact is made. Mating follows quickly, and within days the female begins to lay eggs in slits she carves into twigs with her ovipositor. The eggs hatch into tiny nymphs that drop to the soil and burrow down, beginning the long cycle anew. For predators, the cicada's emergence is both feast and opportunity. Birds gorge until their crops bulge. Snakes and lizards prowl through fallen shells. Mammals dig at the roots for those still underground. Even fish benefit, feeding on the ones that fall into streams. In the days following a mass emergence, the ecosystem changes texture, the forest floor littered with husks, the air thick with wings, the soil enriched by decaying bodies. The cicada's abundance becomes an ecological event, transferring vast amounts of energy from trees to animals, from subterranean xylem to surface life. In this sense, their existence is both transient and transformative. They are nutrient couriers, channeling the hidden wealth of the roots into the open world. The song itself is not mere noise. It structures the acoustic landscape of the ecosystem. Many animals, birds, frogs, even other insects, adjust their communication to avoid frequency overlap during cicada season. The chorus reshapes the behavior of the entire community. Even the wind seems to bend around the sound, carrying it across valleys and ridges. In certain tropical forests, the collective call of thousands can exceed 100 decibels, powerful enough to mask the footfalls of predators or the calls of competing species. To stand among them is to experience sound as substance, air turned to vibration, heat turned to rhythm. By late summer, the music begins to fade. The calls grow intermittent, the dead accumulate beneath the trees, and the forest falls gradually silent. What remains are the eggs waiting in twigs and the nymphs buried deep in the soil. The next generation has already begun its long dormancy, measuring time through root pulses, awaiting another summer that may not arrive for a decade or more. In the end, the cicada's story is one of extremes. It spends nearly its entire life in stillness and silence, only to erupt in a brief season of noise and light. Its body is an amplifier, its life a metronome set to geological rhythms. Through heat, soil, and sound, it connects the unseen world below to the fleeting moment above. When the chorus fades and the forest returns to quiet, the silence itself feels altered, an echo lingering in the air, as if the earth still vibrates with the memory of its sonic ghosts. The pond lies still beneath the late afternoon sun, its surface broken only by ripples of reflected light. Reeds sway lazily in the heat, their tips bending under the weight of insects too small to notice. From above, the air hums faintly, the layered buzz of midges, mosquitoes, and the occasional damselfly darting close to the water's skin. Then, without warning, a red streak flashes through the air, carving a perfect arc above the pond, before freezing mid-flight. Suspended in the light, its wings shimmer like molten glass. The scarlet dragonfly has arrived, the aerial predator of the wetlands, a creature that patrols its domain with the precision of a machine and the grace of something far older. This dragonfly, a member of the genus Crocothemis, is among nature's most accomplished flyers. Its anatomy reads like a blueprint for aerial mastery. 4 wings, each attached to its own set of flight muscles, operating in complete independence. Unlike most insects that flap their wings in unison, the dragonfly can adjust the angle, stroke, and frequency of each wing separately, generating complex maneuvers few creatures on Earth can match. The 4 wings can beat downward while the hind wings push upward, allowing the insect to hover motionless like a helicopter, glide backward, or pivot sharply in place. Its body, a tapered fuselage of muscle and chitin, responds to these shifts with fluid stability. What appears effortless is, in truth, a cascade of micro-adjustments. Hundreds of wing strokes per second, tuned by sensory feedback loops that process faster than the blink of an eye. In the humid stillness of the pond, this control becomes survival. Dragonflies are aerial predators that live and die in 3 dimensions, and their hunting relies on an elegant algorithm of physics and perception. Unlike most hunters that chase their prey, the dragonfly intercepts. Its mind calculates not where the prey is, but where it will be. Using its vast compound eyes, each composed of nearly 30,000 individual facets, it maps the position, speed, and trajectory of moving targets in real time. These eyes, wrapping almost entirely around its head, provide nearly full panoramic vision. Within their mosaic of lenses, specialized neurons process motion at lightning speed, translating visual information into predictive flight paths. In laboratory studies, scientists have found that dragonflies track moving dots on screens with the same accuracy they use to follow real prey, adjusting their angle of attack to maintain a constant bearing, an interception strategy that modern missile systems would later emulate. This behavior unfolds in seconds. A mosquito enters the dragonfly's airspace, fluttering erratically. The predator remains still, hovering at a fixed height, aligning its approach vector. Without any wasted movement, it accelerates forward, each wing beat sculpting thrust and torque with surgical precision. The moment of contact is almost imperceptible. A flick of red, a subtle twitch, and the mosquito vanishes. There is no chase, no flurry of wings, only a clean intercept followed by a sharp pullout. The dragonfly peels away in a smooth upward arc, its wings glinting in the sunlight, the pond below undisturbed. Efficiency defines its every motion. In controlled studies, dragonflies have been recorded capturing up to 95% of their attempted prey, a success rate that far exceeds most terrestrial or aerial predators. Beneath this precision lies a body built for thermal and aerodynamic performance. The scarlet hue that gives this species its name is not just aesthetic. It plays a role in thermoregulation. The dense red pigment, concentrated along the abdomen, absorbs solar radiation, allowing the dragonfly to warm its flight muscles to operating temperature even in cooler air. Like miniature solar panels, the wings and exoskeleton collect and store heat, enabling early morning patrols when other insects remain sluggish. Yet this same brilliance carries a cost. Under the full weight of midday sun, overheating becomes a threat. To counter it, dragonflies perform a behavior known as obelisking, angling their bodies upward, pointing the abdomen toward the sun to minimize surface exposure. This posture, resembling a living sundial, regulates body temperature with exquisite precision. When not patrolling the sky, the dragonfly rests on reed stems or rocks, wings held flat, eyes scanning ceaselessly for motion. Each territory, often only a few square meters, is fiercely defended. Rival males are met with rapid chases that spiral into mid-air dogfights, two flashes of color weaving through the sunlight before one is driven away. The boundaries of these aerial arenas are invisible yet absolute, defined by invisible corridors of scent, shadow, and flight pattern. The victor returns to his perch, resuming the rhythmic patrol that both asserts dominance and advertises fitness to passing females. The dragonfly's flight mechanics depend on a balance of muscle power and structural efficiency. Within the thorax, asynchronous flight muscles attach directly to the wing bases, rather than to the thoracic shell, granting direct control over individual wing movements. Each wing vein acts as both a support beam and a sensory organ, detecting minute changes in air pressure and turbulence. Microscopic studies reveal nanostructured ridges along the wings that reduce drag and delay airflow separation, a natural form of aerodynamic optimization millions of years before human aircraft design. The dragonfly's wings are, in essence, dynamic airfoils that flex and twist in response to turbulence, maintaining lift through conditions that would stall most engineered planes. Vision remains the key to all of this. The compound eyes, bulging hemispheres of ommatidia, allow for both motion detection and detailed perception. The lower half specializes in close-range tracking, while the upper half focuses on distance and light contrast. This dual system lets the dragonfly spot the faint shimmer of wings from meters away while judging the precise distance of a moving insect. Each eye processes visual data through specialized neurons tuned to detect motion direction and angular speed. These signals feed into a network of interneurons in the dragonfly's brain that perform instantaneous vector calculations, solving geometry in flight. In experiments, dragonflies can even predict erratic prey movement, anticipating mid-course changes and correcting their flight paths before the prey turns. Such predictive control places them among the most capable visual hunters in the animal kingdom. The pond itself forms an ecosystem that amplifies this drama. Beneath the surface, dragonfly larvae, known as nymphs, prowl among reeds and sediment. They are aquatic predators in their own right, equipped with a hinged, extendable jaw called a labial mask. In a lightning-fast strike, the mask shoots forward to impale or grasp passing tadpoles, mosquito larvae, or small fish. The nymph's life underwater may last for months or even years, depending on climate and food availability. When the time comes, the mature nymph climbs a stalk, splits its exoskeleton, and emerges into its winged form. The transformation is both brutal and precise, a total reconfiguration of respiratory, circulatory, and muscular systems. Within an hour, the adult dragonfly begins its first flight, already a skilled pilot with instincts coded by countless generations before it. By late afternoon, the light shifts again, and the pond's surface mirrors the amber of the sky. Heat shimmers fade into cooler tones, and the dragonfly alters its patrol rhythm. It no longer hunts in frenetic bursts, but traces long, gliding loops across the water, occasionally dipping to skim a ripple or inspect a reflection. The air grows dense with humidity, and the faint buzz of mosquitoes returns. In this low light, the dragonfly's compound eyes adjust, their sensitivity increasing as contrast diminishes. Even in twilight, it remains a capable predator, intercepting silhouettes by motion rather than color. Though it appears solitary, the scarlet dragonfly plays a vital ecological role. By consuming vast numbers of small insects, many of them disease vectors, it acts as both regulator and recycler in its habitat. Each captured mosquito or gnat represents energy transferred from ephemeral wings to enduring motion, feeding back into the pond's food web through excrement and decay. Its larvae too sustain fish and amphibians, forming the foundation of aquatic predator-prey cycles. In this sense, the dragonfly is both hunter and link, a moving junction between air and water, past and future. The sun sinks fully below the trees, and the pond darkens. The red glint on the dragonfly's abdomen fades to black, and its patrols slow. It lands one final time on a reed stem, folding its wings neatly, the world around it slipping into stillness. What remains is the faint whisper of its flight, a quiet echo of precision, power, and balance. The scarlet dragonfly embodies an ancient mastery of motion, an organism that has refined flight for more than 300 million years. To watch it is to glimpse perfection in motion, evolution's long experiment brought to effortless life above a mirrored pond.